Hello everyone, Chris from 6++ here, and welcome to our series Playing the Primary, which we focus on the primary scoring aspect of 40k. In today's video we are going to be focusing on mission 21, Abandoned Sanctuaries. We're going to talk about the mission itself, we're going to think about how we can go about projecting a score, as well as anything we need to be aware of with this particular mission. So, let's crack on. Abandoned Sanctuaries is a 5-objective mission in a Dawn of War style deployment. You score 4 points for holding 1 objective, 4 points for holding 2, and of course 4 points for holding more than your opponent. The mission Tertiary is based around the centre objective, in which you score 2 points if you hold it at the end of your turn, or if you kill an enemy within 6 inches of the centre of the battlefield. Furthermore, if you hold the centre objective at the end of the battle, you score an additional 5 points. So, how easy is it to score on this mission? Well, if we look at this terrain layout by the UKTC, you can see that the middle objective is out in the open, but the ones on the flanks are actually defendable. And this mission will often be played in one of 2 ways. Firstly, it is important to note that it is highly unlikely you want to be trying to control the entirety of no man's land, all 3 middle objectives, because they span the entire width of the board. So as such, you're going to need to make a decision early on based on your army. Are you going to try and hold the middle, or are you going to stick to a flank and shoot your opponent off the middle? This will of course also depend on your opponent. For example, if they're wielding an unkillable Terminator brick and stick it in the middle, trying to contest that may well not be the play. However, as long as you hold your home field objective and lock down a flank, you'll be able to score 32 reasonably securely. Issues will come about if you're playing into enemies that can hit you hard quickly, such as Blood Angels, as then you may lose your home field quickly. As such, try and work out based on your opponent whether they have that ability or not, in which case you may have to either try for both flanks, or even one flank and flipping the board over and heading towards your opponent's objective. It kind of depends on your list. So is it easy to hold more on this mission? Well, frankly, it depends entirely on the matchup. Your army may be built to sit on particular objectives and control the board that way, in which case this is the mission for you. More so than many other missions, this is favourable to those armies that can hold down objectives and not be shifted off of them. So you're going to have to identify that in the matchup. Do you want to put your 10 Terminators in the middle and sit there, hold your backfield with something easy and then secure a flank? In which case you're going to have the primary control in this game. I know, for example, with my Harlequins, I'm not wanting to try and hold that middle. I want to try and stay away from my opponent and hold down the flanks, and that's where I'm going to be heading. The reality is that certain armies are just not going to be able to hold more on this mission unless they're doing a really good job of killing the opponent, and some armies are going to do a really good job of holding that centre and therefore holding more. So if you can identify that early, that's going to really help with your projections. For example, if you know you're going to be scoring hold more, turns 2, 3 and 4, that's 12, 12, 12, that gets you 36. Add on the 2 points each turn for holding the middle objective, and that's you basically, without even worrying about turn 5, that's you nearly maxing your primary already. So yeah, again, and I'm going to keep saying it a lot in this video, it's about identifying the matchup and what your list does in this particular mission. In terms of the tertiary, the reality is that in most games and most matchups, you would hope you're going to put something on the objective, your opponent's going to shoot you off it, you're then going to either take it or shoot the thing that's off on the middle, and you're going to trade those 2 points each turn. The only time this won't happen is if your opponent has put something really hard to kill in the middle, in which case you're going to struggle to kill them off it, and you might not have a way of taking them off it if, for example, they have obsec or heroic interventions and that sort of thing. So that could cause an issue with the tertiary. The other thing you need to think about is if you go first, do you actually want to put something on that middle objective to score 2 points? It would depend a lot on your list building. I know, for example, I don't really want to shoot something or put something on that middle objective as a Harlequin player, because my units are designed to be thrown away in my opponent's deployment zone, not the middle of the board. So yeah, it's kind of matchup dependent, but if you think, oh, this game's going to be super close, those 2 points could make all the difference, then you might have to put something on that middle objective. But certain armies probably aren't going to want to throw something away and get the ball rolling there. But yeah, it kind of depends, because you are then losing out on those 2 points. So now let's think about the two opposite ends of the mission, the beginning and the end. Now this mission is one of a kind. You cannot pre-game move and you cannot forward deploy on this mission. Certain armies hate this because a lot of their success is built around this, or it's a party trick they have. You take Necrons, imagine if they could just swarm the middle of the board with their pre-game move. Blood Angels don't like being able to launch themselves forward, or they do like being able to launch themselves forward, and they can't on this particular mission. It's never going to shape your list building process, but I don't know if you've built a full forward deploying army and you look at the mission pack and you see this mission is there, then it might affect how you build your list. But it is something to be aware of, because it will spoil certain party tricks and it might shape your strategy and the way you deploy slightly. So it's something to be aware of. And then we have the end of the game. Now you score 5 points at the end of the game if you hold that middle objective. So as you go through the game, you really want to be thinking, is there anything which I can keep hold of to put on that objective? When you're on turn 4 and you're doing your movement phase, heck, even turn 3 potentially, if you're that much of a grandmaster of the game, you need to be thinking, what is going on that objective at the end of the game to score me those extra points? Because, I mean, I mentioned it in a previous video, the common mistakes video. If you go second in this mission, let's say turn 5, your opponent scores an 8 on primary. If you can go and hold that middle objective and hold more, suddenly you're scoring a 17. That's a 9-point difference there just on primary in that final turn. So be thinking, especially in turn 4, do I have anything to try and score me those? And as the game's progressing, be thinking, is this actually going to be something that matters, or am I killing them so quickly that it won't really matter? Or, you know, I've got such an advantage on the secondaries, but it is something to be aware of. So yeah, try and hold something back generally that can go onto that middle objective and grab you those extra 5 points. Conversely, if you've gone first, then you need to be thinking, is there any way I can stop my opponent from running onto that middle objective and stealing it? So it might be, I don't know, let's say you've got 10 Terminators, which your opponent's ignored, really placing them in such a way that your opponent has no way of getting onto that objective and can't knock you off it. It's something to be hyper aware of. If we're playing with clocks and that sort of thing, we can be running out of time and panicking a bit, but it's something you definitely want to be thinking about. There's a lot of ideas there. So when we boil it down, what does a projection look like? Well, the reality is that you are probably going to be holding your home objective for most of the game. You're going to be holding one of the flanks for most of the game. You would hope to be scoring somewhere between a 28 and a 32 on your primary as an absolute minimum. If you are the sort of army that can hold more, then you're going to be confidently scoring a lot more than that. Then we've got the tertiary. Again, as I said earlier, most games between most armies who don't have this big blob or brick they're going to put in the middle, there's going to be a trading war back and forth which is scoring you your 2 points. So unless there's a big mismatch in style of the armies, which this particular mission can really play into, you're going to be looking to score, let's say 32 on your primary, and then 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, etc. So 42 points. So if the game goes reasonably according to plan, you're going to be looking to score 42 on your primary, and that will obviously change a lot depending on the styles of armies that are on the table. So there we have it, Abandoned Sanctuaries. A really hard mission to discuss in general because, as I've said multiple times, it's so matchup dependent. I wanted to do this mission though because we are coming up to LGT and this is the first mission on there, and the next few videos will cover the rest of the LGT missions. So yeah, that's all. I hope you found this video somewhat informative. Hopefully I can give a more substantial opinion and better advice on the rest. But if you have enjoyed, consider giving us a like and a subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.